Oh, had our handy helper come in, make sure I was the host. To get it recorded. Good officially afternoon, council member. How are you? We're working on his audio, maybe.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep. Welcome.
Thank you.
How you doing, Jared?
Good. How you doing, Mayor?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Who are you coaching in softball now, Jared?
Well, wrong sport. The sport would be soccer.
Oh, soccer. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, I've taken a break. I just couldn't fit it all in. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Really?
take a break. But I still love watching the high school boys play. So,
Was there? You didn't help at Bonneville, did you, this year?
no, that's another Jared Anderson.
I asked Jason. I said, now is he coaching at Bonneville now? Jason said, there's probably about 100 Jared Andersons within the Wasatch Front. So I said,
yeah, I've regressed back to just rec soccer, so I'm enjoying that.
okay. Because you were at Morgan High, right? You were
Right.
at Morgan.
Yep.
Okay. That's what I thought, and I thought, man, he moved to Bonneville real quick, but that would have been a big step up, though. I mean, I'm just saying.
Lateral.
Huh? No. Okay. Well, good. They need you in the rec program, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But hello, Melissa.
Well, oh, this is. How's it going, Melissa?
Hello, Melissa.
Muted.
She's shy. Melissa's pretty shy. Have you noticed that about her?
Oh, yeah. The first word that pops into my mind. She probably had fire start in her office. Someone run in there. Hey, Michelle, how's it going? Well, this is actually 100% attendance of our committee currently, because I don't know who all knows in this group, but Lance Evans has left Morgan County. Wah, wah, wah.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Did not know that.
Yeah, Councilmember Anderson could probably shed the most light on it. He did send me an email. I cannot for the life of me remember where he ran off to, but he is no longer with the county,
So,
unfortunately.
funny little comment. He's my next door neighbor now. He came to Sunrise. He's outside. So he's in the planning department. So I don't work way close with the planning department, but he showed up one day in a tie and a suit, ready for an interview. And I told him, I'm like, I don't know why you guys let him in the office. I'm not sure why he's even here, but we were joking around. But yeah, he currently works for Sunrise Engineering. So,
Oh, okay.
yep.
Huh.
Well, we wish him luck there. However, for us, that will mean that we need to appoint a new staff person from Morgan County. I am keeping my ear to the ground on that regarding when they will replace Lance and have, a little bit bigger pool to draw from. At which point we will head up to the COG and ask for their assistance in appointing a new member. Additionally, Lance was our chair. So when we do get a new member, we'll have to do another voting for that. Mayor Allen, I believe you are our co-chair or vice chair. In
Okay.
the meantime.
I am. Okay.
And so with that, we can go ahead and kick it off.
Okay, let's do it.
Um,
Let's go to action
I
item
will
number
share my
1.
screen.
Approved minutes of February RRC.
You guys all see in the agenda?
Yep.
Move to
Perfect.
approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have motion and a second to approve the meetings of February RRC. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, I think it was unanimous. Do we have everybody on board, Melissa or Christy? Is Melissa?
Yep.
Melissa tuned in. Melissa, are you tuned in?
She is muted.
We can't hear
I'm
her. I
guessing
don't
she
know,
had someone rushing to her office.
don't know if she can hear us. What do you think, Christy? We got those two on yet?
They are on. I heard Rochelle. Melissa is still muted, but I think she probably got a phone call or someone stepped into her office. So I'm guessing we'll hear from her
Okay. Rochelle can
eventually.
hear. Okay, let's move on then. Item number 2, review checklist suggested from February meeting. So go ahead, Christy.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. If you guys can recall, we talked in February about providing additional resources both on the website and to our eligible counties for them to review and distribute at any point regarding all the steps that are required to apply for funding from CDBG, and additionally the steps that need to be taken once you are preliminarily awarded a CDBG grant. And so these, upon approval, will be uploaded to the WFRC website so that potential applicants can get a better idea of, what applying for this grant entails. So it's a little bit more specific of, a checklist with the dates and everything that will be required, starting with the grantee workshop. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong checklist. Here we go. Starting with the how to apply workshop, and takes you all the way through to the January 31st date for submitting your web grants application.
Okay, Christy, so is this the state checklist or is this our local checklist?
This is the state checklist.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yep.
because that's all.
So
That's
anyone,
state meetings is making sure the checklist is more clear to understand, correct?
Mhm. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So anyone who attends this how to apply workshop will receive this checklist in their handbook. This will just help potential applicants get an idea before they come to the workshop of, just how much detail and effort goes into applying for these grants.
Will the workshop be in person?
I believe this one could be in person, yes. Yes.
Because
Yeah.
I tried a couple of years ago online and I was lost and it was hard to ask questions. And so I think in person would be a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think fingers crossed nothing happens before fall. That is a good thing to keep in mind. Okay, so then additionally, we have this grantee checklist that, after you've completed all the steps on this first checklist, you've gone through the rating and ranking process. This committee has approved that list and it's indicated to you that your community has been recommended for funding. Then you would turn to this checklist and it takes you through to the next steps in finalizing your application, starting with the grantee workshop. and takes you through every step in order to the due date of those applications at the end of May each year. So I know, oh, hey Melissa, how's it going? We're guessing you had some fires to put out real quick. Awesome. So if you guys had a chance to look at these checklists, me or Ellen, I know you're very familiar with these checklists. You know, do we think that this will help potential applicants to better understand the program before, you know, they're making their first steps, and also helping them walking through it all the way to the end?
Yeah, I actually do. And I really appreciate it. The only other thing I was thinking is based on if it's a construction project versus a services project, for example, maybe annotating that. Like, so, you know, like I see how you have it in red, and I think that's super helpful. And I like how it's all laid out, but maybe, you know, for construction projects, for those that are just specific to that.
Okay. All right. Not typing notes and writing notes, which feels archaic. I can't believe I still remember how to write, but takes a little bit longer. Anyways, so yeah, I will work on something that kind of lays out clearly the differences between types of projects. But in the meantime, I will add these to the website, and hopefully that will help potential applicants and grantees.
Okay, thanks, Christy. Let me just say, I just want to testify that the state people really worked hard on this. They want to give this money away, and they're trying to make this process as clear as possible. I know it's kind of rough sometimes, but at our last state meeting, I mean, that's about all we talked about. That's always the top of our agendas, is how do we make it easier? How do we, and for us and for the state people, it just seems like it's pretty easy. But if you're new to it, it's not easy. And so they're spending a lot of time doing that. So I appreciate the state staff and how much they care about it. They care about every applicant, and they want them all to succeed. So they put in a lot of work into this. But those suggestions, like from you, Melissa, we'll pass those along, and we'll improve this every year. So thank you.
That's a question that I had, Chair, is when, so is this checklist updated every year with new dates every year? Is that how it works, Christy?
Yeah, so it will be updated every year. There's some dates that won't change, except for obviously the year date. For the most part, the dates aren't going to be jumping around. It'll be very consistent, just, depending on what day of the week it falls on, and then of course the year.
Okay.
But it is updated every year.
Okay. So I think though, pertaining to that, one of the things I was most confused with, and I think Mary Ellen, you hit it spot on, like the more you do this, the more you do understand. But what was really confusing to me is, and if as we go along and start to iterate on the improvements, even though like it says the collaborative applicant, or if you're not if the checklist is written in a way that we fill in like WFRC instead of AOG, because the checklist is written by the state for multiple AOGs, right? Multiple areas. And I think if we can personalize it to our area and fill in the names, I think that'll be way less confusing. And even though that, like now it makes sense to me and I can read it that way and understand how to apply it, I think if we're looking for more cities to get involved, especially like new elected mayors that don't have city managers, for example, if they want to get involved, it would be so much easier to personalize it, right? More to our area. So if there's ways we could do that, I think that'd be super helpful.
I look at this, I'm one of those new mayors, and to me, it looks like a foreign language. I have no idea what this stuff is. So I agree with you, Melissa. It would be very helpful to come down to my third grade level, I guess.
Well, I don't think it's a third grade level. I just think it's as personal as we can get, right? Like, and maybe it's not WFRC, maybe it's Christy, right?
Well,
The
a
Third
telephone
grade
number.
level coming from a high school teacher?
Yeah. But understanding the acronyms and stuff, I mean, it's just kind of hard to understand until someone would walk you through it. So,
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I think
Right.
if it's a checklist that we want to find useful and people pick up all the time, then having, again, like instead of WFRC, maybe it's Christy because Christy's our CDBG person specifically. So maybe we put Christy and her number, her telephone number in brackets or email in brackets, right? So as specific as we can get, I think the better. And especially, I know it was massively confusing when we went after the nonprofits and having a host city. And what that looks like, that's a lot more than just getting a city to sponsor it, right? Like for the city, that's a whole nother ball of wax with the nonprofits. And it looks super easy on that checklist, but anyway, so I'm just saying, like, as we get going and maybe we don't really spend a ton of time on it, but as personal as we can get, I think the better.
That's a great
Yeah.
comment.
And Christy, and that's, that's your job, Christy, right? I mean, and they learn this. I mean, hopefully if you attend a how-to workshop, your first how-to workshop, and you have something you want to apply for, I'm sure Christy will hold your hand probably for the first month and say, let me help you. Even there's his hand. Grab it, Christy. I mean, even my Amy Rodriguez, I mean, I know she calls you a lot, Christy, just to make sure. She's done 100 of these, but she calls you constantly just to make sure. So as long as Christy's name is in front of people, there's the one that can help you. So, but if you get to that how-to workshop, that's where we grab onto you and help you through. Right, Christy? I hope I'm right.
Yep, absolutely.
I also
And this
think,
is one of the reasons why it's so great to have newer people on our committee, right? Because people like, me and Mayor Allen and Rochelle, like we've been doing this for how long, right? And so like, it's hard to explain something that pretty well to someone who doesn't, because you think, oh, it just comes intuitively, but that's definitely not the case. And I do recognize that CDBG can be super daunting.
the other thing I would say is because that orientation meeting is so critical, like if you miss it, you're done for a year. I feel like we should advertise as this subcommittee. I think we should be advertising to everybody show up, even if you don't know you have a project yet. Like,
Right.
just come to it so that you have it. It's like a letter of intent. There's no harm, no foul. You don't have to have anything ready. And I think if we could start to advertise that, I think not only would we have people starting to understand CDBG, right? We'd start to get the information out. And I think we would be able to demonstrate a more equitable sort of outline. And instead of like sending it out via email, which they'll probably just delete because they don't know what it is, I think we should like advertise and say, kind of come out and learn. Like, this is a funding stream that it is a monster. Maybe we don't say that on the advertisement, right? But we
Right.
say, hey, come out and see this, whether it's for this year or for future years, because that's the way you're going to, get to understand it. So as a funding stream. So I think that would be super helpful as well for this committee to really try to, even for those of us, like if you kick it out, Christy, to like your distribution list, I think if we all follow up as well, like with our own social capital, right, out to others, I think that would be super helpful to everybody to truly understand it.
Yeah. Now, is that
If
true?
that
What she
meeting-
said?
if
Let me
that
ask
meeting's
you.
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Let me just ask a question. So you don't have to go to that how-to meeting with a project, right, Christy?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Just want to make that clear. So you do not. Okay, you were right, Melissa. I don't know why I question, but you're always right. So thank you.
Not
No,
always
that's a great
Not.
idea. Yeah,
Yeah.
just come and you know what? It might. I don't know. I've never been to one, Christy, but it may blow people away and say, no, there's no way I can do this. But a lot of people do it, so it can be done.
Well,
Right.
and I'm also thinking like, I and now Christy, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is let's say 6 months later, we start to advertise like, oh, we're going to have X amount of money. Well, if you haven't gone to the orientation meeting, then you can't put forward a project. So then you wait yet another year. And then people are just going to get disillusioned and say, well, right, because they're never going to go to that orientation meeting because they're never going to remember it. Never, but I mean, I just think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I feel like if we open it up and say, just come because, again, you don't have to have a project, but just come because guaranteed, look what happened, Mayor Allen. I mean, we ended up with all sorts of ideas. Well, nobody could, well, it was CARES, but my point is that if we get everybody there, then they're not going to be 6 months later wanting to do a project and not having met that requirement. So I feel like it's like a letter of intent
Sure.
when it's required. So
Yeah, that's a good way. That's a good way to put it. John, you had a comment.
Well, I was just going to say, if that meeting is so important, which it is, I think we better get a date as soon as possible. I mean, people have calendars on their phones now, and I think it's something that we shouldn't wait until a month before and say, oh, all of a sudden, here's this critical meeting that if you don't attend, you don't get to apply. So I think we ought to be looking at a date sooner than later.
Yeah. Do you already have that date, Christy, by some chance?
I don't.
Okay. Usually it's you send that out pretty early. I know it's much longer.
I try to do it
before.
Like
I try to do
October.
it more. Yeah, no later than a month in advance. I advertise it, but to your point, Mayor Olson, yes, the sooner the better. And it's usually end of October, beginning of November, in that time frame.
Okay.
But yeah, we can look at getting that scheduled at our next meeting.
Yeah, let's get it scheduled. Well, you get your calendar going there, Christy, because you have to be there. So
Yeah.
and then we'll send out a date and we'll go. Let's get it out early, so we have time to talk about it at our COGS and different things. So okay, good points.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, Christy, you want to go to number 3? Is that where we're at?
Yes, and then we'll skip to number 5.
Skip to number 5.
I missed the 4 there. Yeah.
4s are unlucky numbers.
Clearly. All right. So the May meeting is usually where we do our preliminary look at our rating and ranking. Ideally, we want to have these finalized at our August meeting. So now is the time to really look at them. Every year, it seems to come up throughout the year, different criteria that we want to look back at. So I have a couple of things on there for us to look at. And then, of course, if anything stands out to you or you guys think of anything, definitely bring those up and we'll discuss those and then finalize those in August. So if anything, between now and then pops into your mind, it won't be too late. But right now we just want to get a head start so that we're not, rushing to do this all in one meeting in August. So here are our beautiful 2022 rating and ranking criteria, as well as our general policies. Of course, it goes without saying that the numbers and things will be updated each year. So it'll say 2023 at the top instead of 2022 and things like that. So I will mention things that are often changed. If I don't mention it, it's because it hasn't been changed for a long time. That's not to say that we can't change it. I actually have on my list here something that hasn't been changed in a while, but that came up at a statewide meeting when we were talking about other changes that other AOGs have made. And that is this number 3 here. The maximum grant amount per year for community infrastructure projects is $250,000. So we've had that cap for some time, 4 years at least, I'd say. Other AOGs have kicked that number up a little bit to kind of correlate with rising construction costs. So I thought that would be something that we should bring to this group here and discuss if we should increase that number, if we like keeping it the same, and, you know, spreading the wealth out, if you will, a little bit by capping that number. So I'll kick it to the group. What do you thought?
Well, if you keep it at 250, we usually get about $1 million. You allow at least 4, move it up to 300 and something, then you cut it down to maybe only 3 that are going to receive. I can't remember what, I remember we discussed it at the state meeting, Christy, but what was their, oh, just because projects are getting more expensive, but wanted to allow more money. Huh.
Well, I know for roads with petroleum costs, then your asphalt costs go way up. And petroleum has gone way up. And so we got a COG grant of 250,000, and it was supposed to have done so much of our roads, but now we're looking at only being able to do about a half to two-thirds of what we were going to do because of rising costs.
I think we should also leave it, because if we get more people at the orientation meeting, right, in another year, then maybe we look at lowering the maximum so that we can distribute it. But I don't think we have a lot of people. I think we have the same people participating. Not that I'm saying that's a bad thing, but maybe we address that particular issue next year if we have more cities where we feel like we need to distribute it further. I just don't feel like we have the demand this year to lower that, especially with Mayor Olson's comments about costs.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so we wouldn't, so you say lower that maximum to 200,000 or lower that to?
No, leave it.
Leave it? Oh, okay, yeah. Because you don't want to go below 250.
No.
But yeah, you can't do it. And it's, yeah, we've talked about this for years and years. It's not going to do, it's not going to do huge projects, but for some of us smaller towns that, cities, it can do a little.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
If you can do,
and above
you can do
that,
half-
above that, you've got that you can spend 200,000 a year to 2 years, so that's 400,000.
Yeah.
So that helps too if it's a 2-year project, which I mean,
Right.
in my situation, that's probably what I would apply for, is 200,000 1 year and then 200,000 another, and
Yeah.
that gets you to 400,000. So I like it the way it is.
Okay.
Well, and I also think if we get more people there, more people applying in another year, let's say 3 years, it's double the number of applicants, we can always move to a match versus paying for the entire thing, right? Because we want to spread it out and get more and more projects. And so, but right now, I just don't think we have the demand to change it.
Yeah. Well, there's a match on,
Great comment.
right, Christie, of course. And 38%.
Yeah, a match is not required, but
Right.
no match is required, but you do it. I mean, it boosts your score way up depending on your match.
Gives you a few points. Yeah. Okay.
But we may decide as a group to change that. Maybe it's not 30%. Maybe we move it up to 50, or, you know what I mean? I just don't think right now, today, we have the demand to even be moving that around. I feel like this is a good number to just stay here because I don't think it's been a problem.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay,
I've only been here for
agree.
1 year, so.
No, those
Well,
are great
I agree
comments,
with you.
and
I think it's a good number.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, like I said, we haven't changed it in a long time, but Mayor Allen and I heard it at the state meeting, so we thought we better bring that to our committee and make sure we're taking these things into consideration. Okie dokie. So the next, obviously, next thing I had that will change is, where did it go? Just the membership down here. So that's obviously out of date. I'll update the dates with the new members, and then of course we'll have to replace Lance Evans, who is no longer with Morgan County. I'm looking, I don't think anyone else's term expires at the end of this year, so aha, got you guys for another year. All right. Another item I had on my list I'll go through these slowly in case anything pops out, something you want to change. Number one is the state criteria. We can't change that. One thing that we changed really recently was the points in relation to housing units. We made them 1-to-1 where it was a range before, and we thought, with the small amount grant money that we're able to give, it's just not possible to do these types of projects and get that many points. And so we lowered that in order to help potential housing projects.
Can I just say an aside to this group potentially, if you could go back?
Oh, yeah.
So obviously we don't have a ton of money in CDBG for big projects, right? And I think for chronically homeless, I think there's lots of cities who go, well, that's not my problem, right? A lot, like especially when they see that word homeless. But I just want to share with this group, and here's where my brain's going. We're the state's coming through the Office of Homeless Services, Wayne Niederhauser. There's going to be 55 million allocated for deeply affordable. So they're going to allocate it. I want to say 30% to, and I don't know what these are, but so I'm just going to use the terms that I heard and repeat them. But class 3 cities, and then 30% of that 55 million to class 2 cities, and then the rest to Salt Lake, if I'm saying that correctly. So what the deeply affordable is below 50% AMI. So that can be a school teacher if they have 3 children. So I just think that we have to be super mindful for people to really understand what that means, because there could be a city that absolutely could be addressing chronically homeless for DV victims, for example. So it's not what they think. It's not necessarily I'm going to use a really bad, unpolitically correct term, the beggar on the street, right? So I think that a lot of people are thinking, oh, that's a project, right? Like the slums, that's not for our city, but that could be at tiny homes for domestic violence single moms that are working as teachers, literally. So it's not hard to be deeply affordable or chronically homeless for that matter. So I just think that we need to be thinking about this in terms that don't just automatically send somebody one particular place, if that makes sense. And then they don't do any of these projects at all. So one of the things I was thinking in my head, and I don't know how we would do this, but it would be super awesome if we could connect the CDBG to take care of the cost of maybe the engineering pieces or the feasibility study, to then go after funding sources like this 55 million. And so there's nothing we can do right now because the timing's not going to work, but it would be super awesome maybe to have that discussion down the road with what's her name? DWS's housing and homeless. Help me out, Christy. What's her? Christina. So with Christina Oliver, maybe Wayne Niederhauser, and then our CDBG dollars. So I just think that we could be maybe helping in some ways to align even just those conversations. So I know that maybe like Mayor Elson, maybe that doesn't really, pertain, or you don't maybe feel like that pertains to you, but I guess that's kind of my point is I think it pertains to all of our communities, especially with the new LMI legislation, right? And that's going to, and what I've been hearing is that's going to get nothing but more difficult for municipalities because the legislature will start to mandate more and more and more. And so I feel like if we could be using this funding stream to give people ideas on how to even do those LMI plans, right? How would you fund the feasibility studies for certain properties or whatever? I think that would be really good of us to be thinking those types of things through. So sorry for that long-winded diatribe there, but I just think that that's super important because I think people normally would just, whatever, homeless, it's not us. So.
Thanks, Melissa. Those are great points. And definitely, if that's something that would be of interest of people, for some people to have, a meeting tailored around that conversation, that's definitely something that we could do because there, it is CDBG. So there's a ton of nuance that goes along with doing things like that. CDBG actually can't fund any sort of housing structure whatsoever, but what we could fund is all the infrastructure leading up to the front door, right? So it's just those little added extra incentives for municipalities or developers to develop those affordable units. Okay, so here we've reached the match portion, and this was referenced just a moment ago. How it works is on a sliding scale based on your population, right? So we wouldn't consider, you know, a 5% match to be the same from what's a really, like, from South Ogden compared to Vernon, you know, like a 5% match means something completely different to those communities. So it's on a sliding scale based on population and percent match with your project. I think it's worked pretty well. I mean, if there's any other nuances that you guys think should be considered, happy to entertain those discussions. Hearing none, we'll kind of move it along. Another one that kind of gets talked about each year, of course, these dates will be updated to reflect what will be next year. So this will be 22 and 21, 20 and older. But then another thing that we always visit each year is criteria number 10. Which activity receives the most points? So currently we have LMI housing activities receiving the most points. And the discussion has always kind of been like, well, you know, it's not super feasible for us to fund these projects. We'd like to, it's a priority. But that being said, public utility infrastructure is probably the most applied for project. And so those two have kind of toggled back and forth as number one and number two. You know, I think it's fine if LMI housing is number one, and if it doesn't necessarily get applied for, it kind of makes public utility infrastructure the kind of the new number one. But it does give those housing projects that are so coveted that little leg up if they are able to find a project that fits this program. So anyway, any thoughts about rearranging these in any way?
Well, let me ask you, Christy, then, if we look at that, so give me an example of an LMI housing activity, because of course we can't build a whole housing facility, but what is an example of a housing activity?
Good question. So that would be like building the sewer infrastructure to a low-income housing development, or building the roads or the sidewalks or something that supports the development of low-income housing.
Okay. All right. Oh, that's the case, and I would say keep that number one priority then, you know, to help that. Okay, that makes sense.
Any other thoughts before we move on? Perfect. Okay, and then this one we haven't visited, to my knowledge, is this number 13, property tax rate. I do believe we're the only region who has this included in our scoring. It predates me. For my understanding, the reason it was added was to not incentivize, but give priority to communities who are quote unquote helping themselves by imposing a property tax that will then help them to fund these infrastructure projects that they need. What are your thoughts on it? Is that, you know, I can see both sides of the coin. You know, maybe the people, if this is truly a low income community, you know, maybe it's not the best move to impose this property tax rate or a higher one or whatever. But so I do see both sides of the coin that way, but I'm interested in your all thoughts about it.
Christy, could you, I don't think this is really resonating with me. I'm reading the words, but they're not making sense in my head. Could you kind of dumb it down for me?
Oh no, yeah.
Or give me a real life
so,
example, like maybe.
Can I give a real life example, Christy?
Please.
This has been this has been here for a long time. Just, I don't, like you say, well, I can't can't explain it real well, but let me tell you what, in our city, we have property taxed our people kind of to death because we don't have any, sales tax, except a Maverick. There we go. We're rich because of all the drinks we sell there. A low property tax. We don't have a lot of business, but we do have a little. And so in order for our city to continue, we have, not the highest, probably third highest property tax in the county. Whereas some communities in Western Weaver County burden their residents with no property tax. So there is ability there for their residents to step up and pay for some of these projects with just a small property tax. And the problem with that is the residents would be paying a small property tax, but all the businesses that they have in their city would be paying that property tax. And that would be a greater property tax than the residential. And so all these communities are just growing so fast, they're missing the boat out in Western Weaver County. And I'm not going to say names, but so that's kind of the ability to pay, I guess, is what it is.
That makes sense. Thank you
Right.
for that clarification.
It's
That's
the
super.
ability to pay. We have
Okay.
no more ability to tax our people anymore to take care of some projects.
Got it.
A couple cities out west have ability if they just have the guts to impose a property tax. But as a mayor, I know that would be really hard.
That makes
So-
sense. And I'm assuming the 5, select one, that's a Likert scale then? Like up to 5 points based on the range or is that right? Okay.
Yep.
So Mayor, I got a question with the example you gave. Are these numbers, do they correlate correctly? Is there really somebody paying 50% tax on income? I mean, is that what this is saying?
I'm not sure on
It
those
is
numbers.
not.
Christie, can you help those numbers?
Yeah, so I thought it was. Anyway, it's of the county max rate and the city max rate is how those are calculated. So there's a spreadsheet that has the county max rate and the city max rate, and then what that county or that city imposed for their property taxes.
So does that need to be updated every year?
Yeah, so I look at the tax rate that was approved for each city. It's never, the published document is about, they can't say for 2022 right now. So it's for 2021 is the current, is what I'll be updating if we leave this in here with the next.
So is there somebody above 50%? That's high. Do you know if there's a county or city that's above 50% in taxes, or did they pay?
Nope, I've never seen anyone up at 50%.
What is Ogden?
There's
Because I
some
know,
40%.
yeah, I know Ogden because
Um,
I know Ogden, I'm a taxpayer in Ogden and I was doing some legislative work with Commissioner Jenkins, and I think Ogden is, if not the highest, the second highest tax rate in the state of Utah. So I was just curious about their percentages.
Yeah, they
since
would.
Ogden isn't eligible, we don't have,
Yeah.
unfortunately, that.
They're-
I totally understand that. They're their own entitlement city, but I'm just, for Commissioner Anderson, I was just going to say it could very likely be Ogden.
Yeah, but there was a few 40s on there. I noticed
Yeah.
that.
I think
And-
Wendover is the highest in our eligible region.
Yeah, 46%.
Yeah. Okay. So that's why that was kind of put in there, 10 years ago, Christie, I don't know, before you, right?
Yep, but predates me. So Mayor Allen, it sounds like you have the most kind of hands-on experience with something like this. What are your thoughts? Do you think, that the reason why it was put in there is still valid and should still be considered?
Well,
And is the most kind of fair is it fair to consider that?
I think it's fair because like I say, ability to pay. I have no more ability to pay. Cities that do not impose a property tax have all sorts of ability to pay if they just make the big step. and institute a small property tax. You know, as fast as these cities are growing, it wouldn't have to be hardly anything, and they could make a lot of money, you know.
And I
But
agree
not-
completely with what Mayor's saying. I agree that you've got to evaluate. I think it's great to actually have this in here. I'm kind of surprised that other groups don't have this in here. There's different, Morgan doesn't tax as much, but to be low income and to be in an area that has Ogden City, that has one of the highest taxes in the state, for example, man, that's a lot different than being low income in an area that has very little taxes. So yeah, it's a difference, and I think it needs to be looked at. I agree completely. It's what we're doing. I think the only add I might have, Christy, is in the definition, we say about midway through the definition, the tax rate noted above shall include, and then we have all the different taxes. So it's just a little bit misconstruing where it says property tax rate. And I don't know if you just want to say tax rate or overall tax rate. I don't know, or do we want to leave it at property tax rate? That's my last thought I have on that.
Property tax rate's about the only thing we can control in our municipality. I mean, the other tax rates are determined by legislation and stuff. So I would leave it at property tax rate myself.
So if I'm understanding though, Mayor Allen's point, if you don't have a lot of commercial, right, where you're not generating sales tax, the burden is on the people who live in those cities. And so even though we can't control the sales or whatever, I still feel like, isn't that still a part of the ability to pay? Because the tax burden is still on the citizens to then pay more, because they have to have municipalities have to have a revenue generation, right, to do the budget. So then the burden's even more on them if they're a city like Washington Terrace that doesn't have the other infrastructure for the revenues. So in a way, wouldn't that example be a reason to include all tax? Because whether you can control it or not, the burden is still the same. If there's a burden, if that makes sense.
Yeah, just to explore the other side of that, commercial and businesses rely on rooftops to determine where they're going to locate. It wouldn't make sense for a business to locate in maybe like Hooper or Western Weaver, where there's not a lot of rooftops. They're going to focus more on a Roy or an Ogden. And so I think those are some things that are kind of out of city control until that growth reaches a certain point, if that makes sense. And so I think the point of this initially was getting at the one thing that's in your control. Are you doing it? Are you doing it to help yourself or not?
Yep.
Yeah, it's good way to say it. I mean,
Yep.
I mean, geography is 99% what retail looks like. You have a Riverdale Road who has I-15 and Highway 84 coming right through there, and traffic, and they don't need the rooftops. They just have the main arteries. And so there you go. You got instant money there from car dealerships, big box stores, whatever. So.
Well, and isn't the idea, if you're doing infrastructure, to get transportation or, roads to places to then recruit more commercial, right? Like, isn't that part of this funding? That's what it is for, right? Is to generate that infrastructure pieces to support those types of things. So even though you're not controlling it, you're still using the CDBG to indirectly, change the face of your future revenue generation, potentially.
Could be, yeah.
As
Yeah.
a WFRC employee, I full-heartedly support that. As a CDBG administrator, I don't think that is even considered in CDBG that's just, the short answer. I do love it. I mean, of course, like access to opportunities is one of, our main legs that we stand on here at WFRC. But I don't know if it's, I don't want to use the word fair, but to include that in here. But again, relying on your opinions and your thoughts and your expertise as a group.
Well, I think it's good to, I don't know. I think it's good to have in there. Ability to pay is part, part of this, and some communities have the ability to pay for more things if they just do the right thing. I mean, property taxes, shoot me if they say property taxes is the right thing, but you got to pay your fair share. You can't.
And if I'm understanding correctly, the CDBG dollars is to help build infrastructure. So it's keeping it in meets the spirit of helping municipalities do to create the I'm not using my words. I'm so sorry, guys. And I'm not the expert here, but it just seems like it meets the spirit of what we're trying to do with the CDBG money as a whole.
To include sales tax or to leave it in our criteria?
To leave it in our criteria, because I think what it allows us to do is have that conversation about, well, this municipality, we should score this municipality this amount because of the tax rate, because of, right? Like, and even like looking at it historically, because you have the historical data that you update every year. So it could even be looking at it based on, wow, look how much they're growing. Like maybe, and I don't know, Mayor, I'm just going to use this hypothetically, but West Weber, like maybe they're not at a huge tax rate, but maybe they went from 0.1 to 0.3, right? Like, so, I mean, maybe that's something to consider when we're rating it. It's on a Likert scale of 1 to 5. So we can have that discussion as a subcommittee and decide how we rate it. But I think we definitely include it.
All right, I think that's great feedback. I think I haven't heard any reason to take it out. So we will leave it in, and I'll make a note for just looking at the time, future conversations about if we should adjust it at all, but for the time being, at least leave it in.
I don't mean to add more, just another parting comment. So I do like what Mayor Allen was saying, where if you're really basing it on actual property tax and saying this is how much the person has to pay for the property tax. If there's, I guess the only concern I'd have is if you get a city, and let's not name a city in our area, I don't know, if St. George City comes in and says, we're going to tax the heck out of the people. We're going to have between the police, the fire, the sewer, the water, it's going to be 60%. But you know what? We're going to be living large and we're going to have a lot of money to do a lot of stuff. And now we're coming in and saying, oh, you're above the 51%. We'll actually give you a few more points because you've taxed the heck out of your residents. I want to make sure, I guess, cautious that we're not doing that versus focusing on the cities like Washington Terrace, who's saying we don't have a whole lot of sales tax at all. So it has to be the burden on the property owners, and this really needs to be included in our evaluation.
Okay.
That's a good comment. I'm trying to summarize it in my head in a way that I can easily digest if I write it down. So.
Sorry, it was just a parting comment. I still think we leave it in and we move forward with it. I really think as we start, I mean, this is awesome that we can look at it every year. I think bit by bit we can massage and just get it better as the years go on. So I didn't mean to, leave it in, and I think it's great.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Okay.
Was that all you got for us on that, Christy?
That is all I got for you guys on that.
We went back to the agenda. So
of course, you guys are welcome to look over this and see if there's anything you'd like to change. We've kind of made it through all of our criteria, or ones that are, very straightforward. A lot of them are very straightforward, site-specific, community-wide, cost-benefit ratio, very straightforward. The ones that we reviewed are the more kind of subjective reflection of our needs and priorities.
That's located on the website.
Okay, great. Item 5, format of upcoming meetings, in person or virtual. I have on my calendar August 16th is our next meeting. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep.
Okay,
I know I had some votes for in person. Also, I kind of sprung it on you a little fast in this Zoom age. I feel like everyone needs ample time to build a commute into their calendar. So if we're looking ahead right now, 3 more months, how do we feel about meeting in person, eating lunch, getting some face-to-face contact?
I would like to do it that way,
Me too.
right? I would like to do it that way. Will we have will we have another Morgan representative by then, do you think? That would be even better.
That would be even better. In discussing it kind of internally, how we should go about this process, I think we're going to keep our eyes on Morgan County and see when they replace Lance, and then take it to COG for their appointment.
And
So, BBD. Go ahead,
I'm
Melissa.
happy to host if we need a space as well. If there's a lot of people up north or whatever, if it's a more convenient location.
Okay, great. Thanks for the offer. I'll keep that in mind. I think at least for the time being, we should try to, and the COE definitely fits in this criteria, but keep it at a place where we have the option to do hybrid in case somebody can't make it in person. So I will
was
follow
gonna
up with
ask
you
if
guys
you
as we
would
get
do
a
the
little bit
hybrids.
closer. You want to do the hybrid? Okay.
Yeah,
That is-
there's sometimes there's days that the commute just cannot get worked into the schedule.
I totally understand. So yeah, we will, for the foreseeable future, make sure we're limiting our lunch locations to places that can be hybrid, have the hybrid option. And then with our last 2 minutes, I will ask while I have you all here, if you have any food allergies or restrictions to let me know so that we can plan ahead for lunch. And also if you have any, we usually did Zupas before, just out of knowing people liked it and convenience. We're living in the Uber Eats age and everything can be delivered now. So if you have any food recommendations or things that you like, let me know. We'll get lunch scheduled.
Okay. Everything we've had in the past has been good. So whatever you've been doing 3
All
years
right.
ago, if you can remember.
I
Zupas is
cannot
awesome.
believe that it's been that
I was
long.
gonna let you guys know, I need to be allergic to ice cream, but I'm currently not, so.
Okay.
Well, maybe we'll have some ice cream. I'll sprinkle something in there and then you'll be scared to ever eat it again. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I better stop recording before I make threats at people. So
All right. Is that all, Christy?
that's all I got.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, ladies and gentlemen? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Amen.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
All right. See ya.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
Thank you all. See you in August.
Yep. Have a great day.